We've been on the air for a matter of minutes, and we have a promotional offer. Did you see this?
Oh, snap. Incredibly flexible and convenient. I like it.
You got to love those Twitter or Twitch bots. So, good evening. Hope everyone's having a good weekend. And to you football fans, happy playoff season. I've heard it's been an interesting few games so far, but this is not a football podcast. This is a wrestling podcast. So we're going to talk wrestling. And it is the Going Broadway podcast. Alex and Cole with you as always. Cole, what's going on?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We sincerely appreciate you giving up your Sunday night to hang out with us here at the Going Broadway podcast. And Alex, we have plenty to talk about. And, we've had a lot of guests. We have a lot of guests coming up, and we'll talk about those later. So it feels like we haven't had a chance to really just chat it up in a minute. So I say we just jump right in.
Which is what we're going to do. And just a blanket good evening to everybody watching, everybody in the chat. Feel free to chime in whenever you would like about any subjects we are discussing. So we're going to discuss the elephant in the room first of all, and that is the return of Vinnie Mac to WWE. So many aspects to unpack. It started with Stephanie's resignation, and then the Twitterverse, social media blew up with saying that's just the start of, what's coming. And then we had the turned out to be false rumor of the Saudi Arabia group or whatever it was called buying WWE, turned out to be false. And then just a firestorm of whatever you want to call it against those that said, it was all but a done deal. Turns out it wasn't. And I don't know. Let's start off with Vince's return, and then we'll get to the end. So, Cole, first off, your thoughts on Vince returning. What does it mean? Why did he come back? What do you think's going on behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, again, even in this, there's so many angles to unpack. I mean, number one, you get a scandal, right? Like there's the stuff that happened with him paying people off, and the sexual favors and all that stuff that happened. So I think there's a part of him that felt forced out, not that he got to go out on his own terms. And that alone can make somebody salty. That alone can make somebody bitter, wanting to maybe, not that they're coming. And again, you also don't know who's involved in bringing up that scandal. How did it come to light? It was hidden all these years. Nobody really spoke up about it. So how did they just uncover, And so it makes you start to question, if Stephanie's resigning completely, why is she resigning? Is she or her and Triple H involved in the reasons why her dad was removed from the company? There's all these questions that I have. The board members that were removed, were they involved in getting him, strategically looking at the people who are no longer with the company or no, that he's kind of, in a sense, pushed out, of the way to make his way back in. It makes you wonder who was involved in bringing his scandal to light in the first place. But on top of all of that, and maybe this is just, it's so hard right now to trust any outlets as far as news goes and who's got the actual story and the truth on it all. But from what I'm reading is that there actually could be legal actions taken against Vince McMahon for the way that he entered back into the company. That there's potential legalities and things that he did wrong to get back in. So I'm on the edge of my seat, and I can't really put my finger on if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Mainly just because I don't really know how to feel until things actually happen. And I think I was actually in the minority of people who I because of all the crazy thing, like I think in the past 3 years we could say that nothing is impossible in wrestling. I think when you've seen all the people who have jumped ship to AEW or jumped ship to another company, people who have been fired, rehired, all the different things that have happened in wrestling over the past 3 years, nothing shocks me anymore. So when news broke and everyone was kind of talking about it, I was just kind of sitting back and saying, you know what? WWE hasn't made an official statement yet. You kind of brought this point up in our Discord, even that like no major news outlet that's not wrestling related has picked up on this yet. And it really should have if it was a major,
Oh yeah.
not to mention a major sale is going to take time. This is not something that's just going to be like, oh, Vinnie Mac came back. Tomorrow he's selling the company, so I just kind of sat back and now everyone's kind of like drawing their lines on where they're at on it. I'm still kind of indifferent. I don't really know how I really feel altogether. I see pros and cons to everything. My only main concern is that as long as the product is still trending in the right direction, which under Triple H's leadership it has, I'm not as concerned about who owns it. I'm not as
Yeah.
concerned about who's funding it. I'm not as concerned. I see a lot of pros. The only one, um, and I want to tread lightly on this topic. The only one that I really see issues with is the Saudi. Um, and obviously for reasons of wrestlers are clearly not on board with that. Actually shout out to Travis. He texted me. He had talked to a referee that he had become friends with and had reached out to me before I had heard any other news from anyone else about how there's about 9 wrestlers who had spoken out already and said if Saudi buys this, we're out. Like we're not going to be a part. We're done. And so um, I just
Yeah.
was kind of like, I think it's gonna, no matter where you stand on that subject, I'm not really gonna get into my personal opinions about it, but I just think that's gonna be the one that ruffles the most feathers. You obviously saw when the leaked news came out about potentially they bought it or whatever. How many people are like, who's selling their belts? Who's done watching? And how quickly things just went, just went downhill with it. And so I think that should be eye opening. Whether that was their intention to, because now I read rumors that was like their intention was to see what the reaction would be if they did do that, and all this stuff. Whether that was their intention or not, you should look at the response and say, you know what, even if they're offering the most money, is this going to be the best thing for the product? Is this going to be the best thing long term for the company? Because at the end of the day, money talks, but so does legacy. And you don't want to just make a bunch of money, but tarnish the legacy of all the work that you've put in all of these years. A lot of the other companies that are in the hunt, we can kind of dive deeper into that once we hear your thoughts. But a lot of the other companies in the hunt, I'm not really anti against any of them. I think a lot of them bring a lot of great assets and resources to the table. I think a lot of them do things in excellence, and you can see that through their products. And I'd be happy to dive into some of those, but would love to hear your thoughts first on kind of where you're just sitting on the whole initial blow up, if you will.
As wrestling fans, we are some of the most reactionary people out there. And you kind of spoke to what I posted on our Discord about, if there is a multi-billion-dollar sale of a company, CNBC or the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, whatever, is going to pick up on that. And the fact
Right.
that it never did right away should have been a red flag. The timing of it too, I get that, the time difference, if Saudi Arabia or whatever group were the ones that were buying it. I get that there's the time difference and it would have been, evening our time. But at the same time, we're used to big breaking news from a business/financial standpoint, however you want to phrase it. That stuff that usually kind of happens late morning, mid-afternoon, midday time frame. And so even with the time change, let's say Saudi Arabia did end up buying it. I still feel like that time frame, the breaking news aspect of it, would have been on, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase it. It would have been at a time period where it would have gotten the most viewership in the United States on TV, on websites, web traffic, things like that, because Vince McMahon. I mean, that's really the most profound way I can phrase it, is because Vince McMahon. Like, he would want to time it so that any deal would not happen at 9-10 o'clock at night, because
For sure.
people
Not to
are,
mention New Year's Evil was happening at the exact same time. Why would they post something that major that would
yeah.
conflict and overshadow something you were trying to get people to watch on TV? Didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
just
you're
know
fine.
that.
And that's an excellent point too. I hadn't even thought about that. Another thing that kind of separate, another aspect of this to unpack, when Vince came back, Vince brought back, wasn't only his return, he brought 2 execs with him for board members. So that means 3 board members had to resign, step down, whatever. But then not only that, you had 2 more that resigned anyway, if I'm not mistaken. And correct me if you're watching, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Then you had Stephanie step down, and it's like, I just feel like that there are aspects of this that we don't even know about, and maybe we'll never know about. I'm not going to get into spreading speculation, but I know that this is what someone else told me, and I had gone to verify it myself. And maybe they might have voluntarily slash, what's the word I'm looking for?
They basically were told you either resign or you'll be removed. Like,
Yeah, in a sense,
there's an ultimatum.
There's a play on words I'm trying to think of, and it's not coming to me. Like enforced to step down, and that's not the right one I was trying to think of, but
right,
we'll roll with that one. Anyway, what I was going to say is, I was told and confirmed that there was another wrestling podcast out there that has somewhat of a decent following. I'm not going to name it here on the air, but basically saying that they know somebody that voluntold. Yes, thank you. Basically that there's, how can I phrase this without, basically that there are personal issues involved as far as why Stephanie stepped down. And I'm just like, don't throw, you're never going to hear stuff like that on our podcast. We're not going to throw stuff out there that is, we have zero right or reason to even delve into that kind of thing. And we've said it before. I don't want to say we have zero connections in the wrestling business. Whenever we started this podcast, we did. We've since made connections and have been fortunate enough to do so. But I mean, we don't have anybody that we know working within WWE. Technically, I know you mentioned you have like a 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, however you want to phrase it, with people that work with NXT, but that's nothing that we would ever, get.
There's no knowledge being handed over. Though.
Yeah. We're not getting news, but at the same time, we're not spreading fake news or anything like that. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not saying it's not happening, but at the same time, I'm not going to say that it is. However, circling back to what I first mentioned, I do think there are things that we don't know. There are some inner workings that some board members probably knew things or kind of had a heads up of what might be coming down as to why they resigned. And I'm not talking about the ones that were voluntold, so to speak. I'm talking about the ones that still left after the fact. I think there were 2 more plus
Right.
Stephanie that left. And so, anyway, kind of putting a bow on my spiel, if you will, um, I'm going to save some of my thoughts for a later segment. Um, but I agree with you in the sense that I would only see issues long term if it was Saudi that ends up purchasing it. I do think that's a long shot, though, unless, you know, basically nothing is impossible. Nothing would surprise me because, like you said, money talks. And if someone is severely outbidding another group, another company, organization, conglomerate, whatever you want to say it, however you want to say it, Vince is probably going to say sold, no matter who it is. So
let's dive into this just a little bit more, because I think that there's so much meat here that we really do need to spend some time on it, so we don't circle back to it in another conversation later on down the road. Let's get it all out in the open. So we saw a lot of the names that were kind of, I guess, quote unquote, in the bidding war or in the conversation. First question I have is this: is this all? How many times and how often have we heard that WWE is going to get sold? This is one of those. I can only relate it to the church world, but how many times have I been told that, like, the Lord's coming back soon? Like, and you hear that. I've heard that my entire life.
it's the
Like,
boy cried wolf scenario.
and
Scenario.
that's kind of the same thing here. Is like, how many times have I been told that WWE is gonna sell, and Vince is gonna sell the company, and so it's, although I feel like this has the most traction it's ever had, and that nothing's been refuted, nothing's been shut down on it. There's still that little part on the inside of me that just thinks it's all rumors, and that there's no real meat there that's been given by any company rep. There's been no meat that's really been given by anybody other than dirt sheets that are reporting it. And so it's kind of hard. Like, again, even just the rumor of it selling, I think, would hit headlines outside of WWE, outside of wrestling podcasts. I feel like you would have saw other news outlets pick it, because this is a major thing. This is major headlines. I feel like every news outlet in the world, if there was any factual things to go off of, they would be on it. And you kind of you talked about this a little bit in your talking points, is that the wrestling community just jumps on board so quick with whatever is posted by insert dirt sheet name here. And I know that Conrad had said something on his show that he kind of knew through the grapevine that Nick Khan was brought in to sell the company at some point, that's kind of what he was known for doing in other businesses and things. Well, that makes sense. I can understand the alluding to, but again, he's been in the company for roughly what, 5, 6, 7.
I don't know if it's been that long, but
It's been a handful of.
I would say, I'm looking it up now, 2020. So it's actually less time than I thought. I thought it was
Okay.
like more like 2018.
So 3 years. So that actually lines up with his story then. So realistically, he could be there for that. But there's been no real impressions given from the company. Like there's nothing. I'm kind of like I need to see something to base that thought off of. So if you were to just blanket statement tell me they're selling, I would be like, okay, I could see that. I'm not saying it's not possible, but what factual basis do you have other than Dave Meltzer and Conrad and Ringside News and all these different outlets just started reporting on it? Who's the source? Who did you hear it from? Triple H? Did you hear it from Nick Khan? Did you hear it from Vince McMahon? Did you hear it from Stephanie McMahon? I just don't see Vince McMahon, if he wants to be involved at all. I don't see him giving up any control. So whoever he sells to, I still feel like there's going to be some kind of stipulation that he gets creative powers or, whatever. and how all that plays out for the rest of the WWE. I don't know how that all looks, but there's those kind of concerns, but there's just nothing factual. So there's that part of me that just is like, I don't even know if I can believe any of this is true at this point in time. But let's just say for kicks and giggles, let's just say that it is happening. So we've saw names like Disney, Fox, Comcast, which is I think NBC as well or something like that. Um, we've seen the rumors of AEW wanting to do a merger type thing with them and buy the company. ESPN is in the hunt. Obviously, Saudi's in the hunt based off of what we've seen. I don't know if I'm missing it. Did I miss any major ones?
Oh gosh.
Warner,
I can just look it up real quick.
Warner Media or whatever that thing's called that owns TNT and TBS. I know that they were in the hunt, but there was like a list of like 7 or 8 of them.
Let's see. So I've got Disney is one, Comcast / NBC Universal, the Saudi group, Endeavor. So they're the ones that own UFC.
Okay, yeah, I knew that one.
Fox is on here, but apparently I don't see Fox happening because apparently SmackDown's losing the money.
And I was going to get to that, but
yeah, I'll let you tackle that. This one's new. I've not seen this, if this is even true or not, but Jeff Bezos / Amazon.
I did see Amazon as one of them.
I mean, Amazon Prime.
I think Netflix was one of them.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this website I'm on has 6. So yeah, Disney, Comcast / NBC Universal, Saudi, Endeavor, Fox, Amazon.
Okay.
So I mean, Netflix is. I thought Netflix was owned by one of those.
And they could be. And maybe someone I saw that and they were referencing it. But let's just rock with those 6, and then we'll throw AEW because I've seen the rumor in there just because I know people are going to want to talk about that option.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally.
Oh, yeah, Dwayne Johnson.
Which honestly, here's a thought. Dwayne Johnson, if anyone solely has the money just to buy it outright, Dwayne Johnson would be the guy. And honestly, that may not be a bad thing. He obviously loves the business. He has a lot of ties. He has a lot of connections. So I'm not going to say I couldn't shut that idea down. But let's just look at the ones we've named. Out of the ones that were named, I think I would be leaning majorly towards like Disney, only because I think they have the most connections to expand the business. And I think that's what I was looking at when I was thinking about who could take WWE to the next level. I don't think there's another company on that list that could expand the business the way Disney could. Number one, you're talking about incorporating Disney into Disney World, Disneyland. You could see a whole WWE themed park at one of those. The rides that are named and based off of them. You could see the Disney Plus having series on them. They could take over the WWE network, incorporate it into Disney Plus, and make shows and do shows at a better quality. Not to mention WWE Studios is still a thing, so the movies could get a boost in quality and script writing and casting. I think that the merch side of things could go up. But I think as far as like expanding, there's so much more that they could do. Not to mention, I think Disney would be the one to look at putting in like an actual Hall of Fame museum. Like they would be the ones to invest the money at probably Disney World, Disneyland.
Yeah.
Of creating an actual WWE Hall of Fame that you could come and visit, And so just like the expansion, they obviously have, they're not just a company that has a television network or a streaming network. They're a company that has feet on the ground. They are a company that has the ability to expand the business, I think. So they're probably the number one on my list. I'll save this one because I don't have a hot take. So I'm gonna save this one in the back of my head. But just know that, like, I think looking at them, like, I agree with you, Fox, although intriguing because I think that they could create them and ESPN. I think that they could recreate it back to more of the wrestling side of things, more of this less sports entertainment, more actual professional wrestling, and get it back to what wrestling used to be, and kind of giving us maybe what we thought AEW was going to be, giving it that direction to make it feel more sports, more of that sports vibe. And Fox has tried to do that. I think with SmackDown, you kind of see, the SmackDown entrance feels very, Sunday Night Football. You kind of see their choices of who they want on television. They wanted Ronda Rousey, they wanted Brock Lesnar, they wanted Roman Reigns, they wanted people that could draw ratings, that had name value. And so I think that there's great aspects to one of those companies that has been involved in sports.
I want to address this real quick too. Meltzer was the one that, yes, he said it, but I'm pretty sure he was referencing a financial report or something like that. I think Morgan Stanley put it out, or something to that effect. Anyway, just throwing that out there.
Wrong one. This one. I don't think they would tame the show down, just because you're still going to see rated R Deadpool movies. That's going to be owned by Disney. I think that they'll have to address how they project the product. Number one, are they going to move any of these companies? Are they going to move all of their shows directly to their streaming platform only? So, for instance, if ESPN buys WWE, is it only going to be watched Monday Night Raws, Friday Night SmackDown? Are they going to pull their deals with other streaming services or channels or whatever and move everything to ESPN? So you're only going to be able to watch WWE on ESPN or ESPN Plus or whatever. Same with Disney Plus. If Disney Plus buys it, are all of the weekly shows only going to be on Disney Plus, and you got to buy a subscription to it? Or is it going to be one of those?
You got to remember Disney owns Hulu also.
True. So, but Hulu doesn't own the channels that are on there. So is it going to be a Hulu original and something that's posted on Hulu, and Disney Plus is, so there's all these aspects that go along with it that we won't truly know the ins and outs of it, but I don't see them taming it down. Disney definitely has edgier stuff, even for kids. Some of their stuff can be a little edgy from time to time on what some parents may or may not allow a kid to watch. But WWE kind of wants to be that family friendly show.
Cole, we're losing you.
Can you hear me now? I saw myself chopping up there. Am I back?
There you go.
Okay. WWE's always wanted to be that family friendly show, though. So I don't think that they would really have to tame it down more than what it already has been. I just don't think you're going to see them up you probably won't see them go to like a more PG-13 vibe either. It's probably going to stay or TV-14. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You're probably going to see them stay right where they're at. So, yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts. Like I said, I'll save one of my thoughts for hot takes, but I agree with you, Fox. I think they're low on the list because unless they're going to get creative control, which I don't really see a deal where that's going to happen. I think there's going to be caveats in every single one of these deals where WWE still gets to be the script writers. The people that they have are going to be the ones that are in charge still. I don't know. I would be shocked that Fox would be interested in a high, especially where this company would sell dollar range wise. I have a hard time believing that they're in the hunt, knowing that ratings and money is not where they probably thought it was going to be when they took on Friday Night SmackDown. So your thoughts on some of the companies that are in the hunt. UFC is interesting. That they have an aspect that they could bring to it. Your thoughts though on some of the names that are out there.
So I agree with you in the sense that I think Disney would be the front runner from a fan's standpoint, at least knowing what we know, people that are more in the loop might, quite frankly, disagree for good reason. While I'm talking, I'm trying to look something up real quick, but I think Fox is at the bottom of the list just because why would you invest so much more money into a product that has already lost you, at least by reports that we've seen, lost you millions of dollars? It doesn't, it doesn't add up for me. Endeavor is an interesting scenario. I don't see them outbidding Disney though, is the thing. I don't see anybody outbidding Disney, because whenever you look at Disney, you mentioned that the Walt Disney Company is a huge, huge conglomerate of companies and entities as far as what they own. I mean, you've got Walt Disney Pictures, the animation studios, Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, 20th Century Studios, 20th Century Animation, Searchlight Pictures. They own ABC, which that would be an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're wanting to keep SmackDown on a
local,
like a broadcast
mm-hmm.
station, could go on ABC potentially. But I mean, they own the Disney Channel, ESPN, Freeform, FX, National Geographic. So you mentioned Disney Plus, Hulu Plus, whatever you want to call it. I think there's an ESPN Plus, is there not?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's just so many things that they already own, and this could just be something to add to their portfolio. And so, there's all those other companies that are kind of in the middle. Like we mentioned Amazon. I don't see WWE, no pun intended, I don't see WWE being a needle mover for Amazon Prime. I just don't see it. The Rock buying it, I know someone alluded to this earlier. He would actually have to get investor backing. He'd need additional funding to do it. And I know he's already doing a lot with the XFL, trying to get that going. I think just the timing's wrong for that. What am I leaving out?
Well, let's talk about the one I didn't really mention, and just because I think people will want to at least touch on it. What's your thoughts on the AEW merger idea? I'm 50-50 on it.
I'm going to save that for another topic or another segment. Andrew said in the thread earlier, Netflix is actually is its own entity, but because it's its own entity, I don't see that happening either, because
I don't think they have the I don't think they have the wallet. I don't think they have the checkbook to match some of these companies. I think if you're looking at companies who realistically are in the bidding, really there's like a top 3, and then the rest are all down the pipeline. It would have to be other companies passing on it for it to
I'm
get
not ready
down
to shock
them.
you. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Disney's net worth $181 billion. If you go to Netflix, their net worth is actually $148 billion. So yeah, not far off.
Not bad. But you're talking about revenue that's beyond just streaming. Like, and that's, I don't know. There's just so much more to be said. I don't think Netflix would be in the top 3 as far as what they could offer.
I think Netflix, to be honest, I think they would be right above Fox. Despite their net revenue or net worth or whatever you're looking at, like market capitalization and stuff like that, despite the numbers, I don't see why Netflix would even have a desire to get into the wrestling business, so to speak. But at the same time, Ted Turner felt the need to do so back in the 80s, and who knows? Weirder things have happened.
True. Very true.
But I think any other thoughts I have, I'm going to save.
Let's look
Just
at let's look at
one
the
last thing.
chat real.
One last thing I was going to mention is I know the NBC, Universal, Comcast, whatever would kind of have a leg in, not only based on that, WWE network is on Peacock. It literally has its own section or whatever. But I know that Vince is also friends with what's the NBC guy's name? Shoot. I'll know his name once I think of it or once I see it. At least I think he's still with NBC. Brandon Tartikoff, I think that's his name. Yeah, that's him. So I know that there's people want to reference, they want to make personal connections. I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it. Did he die? Really? Then that's not the same guy. Because the guy I'm referencing is still alive, or at least he was as of like 2 years ago. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Whoever it is, though, I know at least as of like 20. I remember seeing it during COVID, and that was when I recollect that the WWE sale rumors were at least existing at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Past in 1997. Wow. Okay, that's definitely not the guy I'm trying to think of. But people want to try to make those personal connections as it relates to the sale. Again, Cole, you said it earlier, money talks. And at that point, business is business. And I don't think that really any personal connections or personal feelings are going to matter when it comes to the sale of WWE. So
let's put a bow on this topic with this question right here, just because we haven't touched on this yet. If you're Triple H, Steph, Shane, I don't really think Shane's even in this conversation. Are you upset that Vince is selling instead of handing the reins, I think is what he meant, over to them, keeping this a family business? Well, number one, we can't really call it a family business because there's shareholders and there's a board, and Stephanie wasn't even fully the CEO. She was sharing that with Nick Khan.
mm-hmm.
I think what's telling about that in the first place is that Vince didn't want to hand it over to his family off the jump. If he felt like his family was ready, again, he already felt forced out, right? Like it wasn't a natural progression of I'm done doing this, here you go. It was I got too much media on me right now, and if I stay in charge, it's going to affect the business. So I have to get out. Here you go. And again, you also don't know what's going on in the background. Was Stephanie, Triple H, any of these people involved in bringing to light what Vince had done in the past? Is that why Stephanie, apparently she had a broken ankle. I don't know if you saw that. She just had surgery to,
Mm-hmm.
What was there? You just don't know. There's so much dirt that could be happening. Here's the thing, especially with family, things can get dirty really quick when you are in these big businesses and companies, and it's all family ran, and everyone's kind of got a role. And if we've learned anything from people that have been involved in WWE, they're not really the cleanest as far as how they've done business over the years. You go and watch all the Dark Side of the Rings and how things were handled
Right.
in the 80s and the 90s, probably before that as well. But, just as you kind of see how things have been handled, things have always kind of been swept under the rug. Things have always kind of been need to know basis. Things have always kind of been this way. And I think it's telling that Stephanie stepped down as soon as this happened. I don't think it's coincidental. I don't think it's she wanted to leave before all this. I think she wanted to leave before all this because she found out what happened and she was embarrassed. She found out what happened and she didn't want to be involved in having her name drugged through the mud for things that weren't her decision, wasn't in her control. I'm speculating. I don't know these things. I'm just saying that if you look at the timeline, she wanted her leave of absence and took her leave of absence right before all this stuff came to light, or right around the same time. All this stuff comes to light. He decides to step down. All of a sudden, Stephanie McMahon's back. Why? How? Well, it doesn't really sound like that was a Vince McMahon decision. It sounds like that was a board decision. So, and again, all the politics that play with board and who votes who in, they voted her and Nick Khan as co-CEO. Who does that? How did Nick Khan get into this? Not that he's not qualified. I'm just saying, how did he all of a sudden get into this conversation? And then you have Triple H taking over creative and all this stuff. But now you don't have Triple H stepping down. Triple H is still in his role. There's no scrutiny on him. So there's just all these little avenues. I don't think that Triple H and Stephanie, either one of them, really had it in their mind that they were ever going to be the ones actually in charge the way that Vince McMahon has been in charge.
Right.
I think whenever it got handed down, even if it was in natural progression, Vince McMahon dies, he gets so old that he's like, hey, I am done. Here you go. I think the structure was going to be set up more so that they couldn't be a Vince McMahon. He would die being the only one that ever got to have that much control in this company.
Yep.
So I don't think there's a saltiness. I think there's a reality that if you're in the business world, you know how business works, and nobody that has that much power is going to give that much power to somebody else.
Indeed. We're going to we'll circle back to some of this discussion, I'm sure, in a topic we'll get to in a moment, but we haven't done this segment in a while. And I wanted to bring it back just because we haven't really. We mentioned that we were going to pause this, or maybe not even pause it, maybe save it for like a Discord discussion or what have you. And I just kind of dropped the ball on it, if I'm being 100% honest. And so this isn't going to be a permanent thing, but I wanted to bring it up because we've had some pretty good matches, and we're only 2 weeks into 2023. So we call it Wrestler of the Week, but let's just say, who's your Wrestler of 2023 so far?
I don't think was this in our notes? Are you putting me on the spot right now?
I am putting you on the spot. This was not in our notes.
Man. Think. Instantly I read Wrestler of the Week, so I was trying to think back on this week. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the Braun Strowman-Walter match.
I've not actually seen that.
I don't know if I could give them, Wrestler or 2020, I think that's a bit of a stretch.
And I'm only saying Wrestler 2023 because we haven't had a normal show for 2 weeks.
Right.
And so by definition, that goes back to the second. So here we are.
Seth Rollins and Theory had a good match. I haven't had a whole lot of chance to watch AEW as it falls like fourth on my list of what I enjoy to watch. I'm just being honest.
What's above it? I'm just curious. I gotta know.
All the WWE product. I'm just being real. I prefer to watch SmackDown, Raw, and NXT before
okay, you're saying those three. Okay. I thought you were just saying WWE was just one, and then
yeah, I'll watch those three for sure. Not to mention AEW is harder for me to watch too, from a logistics standpoint. I don't have a way to watch it except through a website, and it can kind of get glitchy at times. So I get frustrated and don't even care to mess with it. So, I don't know. I don't know if I can narrow down a 2023 because some of these people only had one match in 2023. So I'll give my highlight person, the name that I'll give it to right now is Adam Cole, just from the standpoint of it looks like he's cleared. It looks like he's back. I'm glad to see that. That makes my heart happy to know that he's healthy. Not that he's going to wrestle again to see him on TV and be able to form sentences and walk straight and know that, hey, you at least can have a normal life right now. That made my
I
day.
had to, I had
So
to put this one up.
wow.
So this is going to shock some people. Mine is actually not Kenny Omega, despite the fact that he had a banger of a match on Wrestle Kingdom, followed it up with a tag match where he tagged with Kazuchika Okada after just, getting the snot beat out of him. But I'm actually giving it to Will Ospreay, even in defeat. Some of the spots. Have you seen that match? Omega and Ospreay? If anything, you got to watch that match. Like, New Japan Kenny Omega is just different. Like,
why is that?
I don't know. Like,
Is he stifled in the US? Do they not let him pull all punches? Is it New Japan that tells him he has to do all that? Like,
I don't know, but man,
I agree with you. The more I've seen of New Japan Kenny, even now, because I did see like a highlight reel or something of one of his matches in New Japan, but I agree with you. Not knowing the product very well, he does feel different.
And just some of the spots that they did in that match was crazy. Our buddy Austin is very I don't want to say he's a New Japan fanatic, but I would say that's probably his bread and butter product, so to speak.
His number one, yeah.
And I was talking with him, and they're actually they're likely going to have another match, at least one more match down the road. What's crazy about as good as that match was, they're actually going to be likely saving a lot of spots that they could have done for another match. And I'm just kind of like, it's just crazy to think that they actually saved some stuff. And yes, I get that, Meltzer's the one that said it, but I thought the same thing after the match was over, before I even heard, the soundbite from Meltzer on Twitter or whatever it was. I just remember thinking, man, as amazing as that was, there are a lot of spots that I'm thinking of throughout the match, like a lot of moves that just they didn't go to. And so, I agree, Thomas. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they at least match it, if not, have an even better match down the road. And I'm not talking not a gimmick match, like just another straight up one-on-one match. And I don't know, maybe they throw some kind of gimmick in there. I don't know, but
I changed my answer to Santino Marella.
Okay.
With his Impact debut. I'm joking. I was excited to see him.
The new man in charge. That is an interesting, out of nowhere kind of signing. So
if he was on the table though, I don't know why it's Impact. Like, if he was looking to get a wrestling job, I wish WWE would have brought him back, whether that be on NXT or not necessarily in a wrestling role all the time, but managerial role for some. But I don't know. I like him too much to have him be on Impact. But
David, I like your answer. I like it. Okay, so we're actually bringing back a few things on this show. We're bringing back our hot takes segment. And then we're going to circle back to another one later on in the show. So I figured Cole and I would probably have like one hot take each. Because I'm just thinking, it's like, if I had like 3 or 4, like that'd be a super long conversation. And so, anyway, I'll let you go first.
Okay. I had a couple that came across my mind. I'm trying to think where I want to go with this. I have a 2-parter. Can I give you a 2-parter? I can be happy with a 2-parter.
Go for it.
And I hate to be the maybe the mean guy here. This is why it's hot takes. Part number 1 is that, and this is gonna shock some people. This is how badly I don't want WWE to sell to AEW, that I would rather Saudi buy it than AEW buy it. That is my hot take. I could give I would quit. I would stop watching wrestling. I mean, I'm just going to be completely honest with you. If AEW was to merge or buy, they would have so much to prove to me that they have not proven thus far. And I think Alex could probably testify to this, that when AEW even announced its formation, I have been on the fence. I wasn't very jump the gun, super excited like other people got. I'm not saying that WWE had all the answers. I think it was clear that they didn't. But I think because I got let down by Impact, the way things had ended with them,
Yep.
I wasn't very hopeful for any company. Then AEW started kind of putting some things together, especially during the pandemic era. And I was like, okay, maybe, maybe they have a shot. And then the past like year and a half, I have just been flabbergasted with so much potential and yet missing the mark over and over again, which brings me to part two. Not only would I rather Saudi buy the WWE versus an AEW merger, I'm actually now, I would put AEW and Impact right here with each other as far as roster. The only thing that AEW has is a better production, better more money, really.
Yeah.
But as far as product goes, I would put them right here with each other. I had a chance to watch some of the matches from Hard to Kill. I've been looking at their roster. I've been looking at what they've been trying to put together. And from a storyline standpoint, Impact has just as entertaining stories as AEW does. They have just as if you don't know Mike Speedball Bailey, you're missing out. The dude is insane. Josh Alexander's great. Not to mention, Motor City Machine Gun, like your classics that are there. But there's so much talent there. They're doing just as much as AEW is for me with less talent, though. If you're going to look at talent pool, they are putting on just as an entertaining as a product as AEW. So it's kind of a two-parter on AEW.
For sure.
By no means am I trying to dog them. I'm just telling you how I feel, though. Like, I want to like AEW. I want it to succeed. I think that more avenues for wrestling is great. But when I tune in every single week and I leave disappointed or I turn it off because I'm just bored with the product, I can go watch Impact. Like, I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, I'm going to start tuning into Impact before AEW. Like, that's how far this has gone down the list for me. So
to your point, you said over the last year and a half, that's pretty accurate, because what happened was, in my opinion, once they had that, that all out pay-per-view in 2021, where you had Adam Cole debut, you had Danielson debut, minus a few matches here and there, it felt like AEW just kind of went into cruise control from there.
For sure.
And they, I get that there are injuries, but that's not an excuse. We've always said next man up. And it just felt like, especially from a storyline perspective, they just went into cruise control. Again, they had some decent matches between then and now, not saying that, but it takes more than just, your quote unquote 4.5, 5-star matches to keep somebody invested in your product. And I've said before, like, I was the exact opposite of you. Like, I was super excited for AEW. I was on board from the beginning.
I remember.
I was like, this is going to be awesome. And then when it took off, I was like, I'm glad they're proving me right. And then 2022 hits, basically, and it just,
Man.
I mean, and it's disappointing, because I agree with you. I like anytime you have multiple products out there, or multiple companies out there that are putting a good product for the viewer, for the fan, it's good for everybody. And I agree with you in the sense that Impact is doing just as much with less of a roster, less of a wallet, so to speak, less production value. All of their shows are in front of a crowd of maybe, I don't know, what do you think? 1,000 people, 2,000 people?
Yeah, 2,000 tops, probably.
Do they call it the Impact Zone anymore? I don't know what the center stage, whatever they call it now.
I'm not. I'm not sure what they call it, but it just feels the same. Like nothing feels any different about it. It just feels the same, and that's a compliment to Impact and kind of a backhanded slap maybe to AEW,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
compared to rosters though, and your point was like, man, it was like they got these big debuts and I think they thought they won. I think they were like, well, we got Bryan Danielson, we got Adam Cole, we got CM Punk, we got Undisputed Era is basically here, and we bought ROH, and all these things started happening, and then you're just sitting around like, why am I depressed that Keith Lee's there? Why am I depressed that Adam Cole, like, why is it to the point that all these people that I thought going there would elevate them and give me a better opportunity to see them the way I wanted to see them in WWE? And you got Claudio still doing the same junk he was doing in WWE. You got Miro you can't convince him that there's a good storyline. You got FTR who went there thinking that they were going to elevate tag team wrestling as a whole, and now they're retired. They're not going to wrestle another match in AEW till April, till their contract's up in April, and then they're gone to whatever their next endeavor
Say
is.
they might be out. We might have seen the last of them in AEW, and that's why I'm kind of just.
You have Kenny Omega who doesn't feel as big. We just mentioned that. You have Young Bucks who it's like they were hot when they weren't the EVPs. They come into AEW and everyone's like, no, I don't want to see the Young Bucks be the champion. I was like, you did in New Japan. You did in these other companies. Why not in the company they own?
Chris, I think it holds more than 500 just because I'm equating it to a local venue that we've been to.
It's at least 1,000.
It's pretty close to the same size, and I know they had like 1,300, and I'm assuming the Impact venue or whatever, wherever they broadcast. And I know someone said that they actually go to a few different cities. It looks a little bit bigger, so I'm just assuming
it's at least 1,000. Also here, it's not that there's too many people though, because here's the thing. I agree there's too many people. The same thing we complain about WWE being an over bloated roster, whatever. AEW's done that, and they really do need to divide it up into ROH, AEW, and let them be separate rosters. But on top of all of that, even the people they're giving the time to are under delivering on promos, are under delivering on matches, are under delivering on selling storylines. Let's just be real, y'all. I'm not a hater because I really enjoy him. But MJF, since he won the title, is not near as entertaining as MJF without the title.
I'm not flat.
I want him to be successful. I wanted him to win the title. But even the promo I just watched this past Wednesday was absolute garbage. First off, I like the idea of him and Danielson is a great matchup. That's a good pay-per-view sell when it comes time. But he was shooting a promo against someone that I could give a rat's crap about. Like, why is he shooting a promo against the dude from Japan? Couldn't even tell you his name. That's how much I didn't care.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but
it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things. Again, David Tilley talking about Jade Cargill. Why is the girl 48? No, I don't get it. I don't understand how you could consistently get it right so many times in the early stages in the beginning. And I think we could both agree to that. We saw them consistently get things right over and over and over again. The signings, the way they debuted them, all this stuff. And the way they debuted Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson in the same night, I thought was great. I thought that was genius. We thought we saw the big one with Cole, and then here you go with Bryan Danielson. So, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, nope, I could watch Impact to get the same level of wrestling. I can watch Impact to get the same level of storytelling. I can watch Impact to get the same level of promo and storyline. So, what's AEW doing that, especially if we want to talk to them buying WWE, if you can't prove to me you can run a company you started from the ground up and sign the talents that you have to make it work, I am not convinced for a second you are capable of taking what WWE has, even if it was the way that Vince had it before he left. I'm not convinced that they could have ran it correctly. Your turn.
Agreed on all fronts. So, All right. So real quick, you kind of alluded to my hot take. And I've kind of mentioned it on our Discord, in our chats and stuff, but um, if I'm not going to go as far to say I'd rather see Saudi buy it than AEW, because I don't want to, like, if Saudi buys it, we're going to see we're going to see an exodus of people out of WWE, very most likely. I mean, there's legalities and stuff like that, but if for some reason, so mine's kind of a two-parter also. So part A, I don't think it's as far-fetched as a lot of people say and think it is, of the Con/AEW buying WWE. Because again, money talks. And if they are just, from an outrageous standpoint, if they're the highest bidder, I don't think Vince is going to care. If he's going to make his money, I don't think I don't think it matters where it comes from. So that's part A. Part B, if that should happen, in the immediate term, I'm going to be watching a lot more New Japan and probably get New Japan World. I'm just saying, because like they're spread so thin at this point as it is. And Brian alluded to it earlier. Looking for his comment. You actually brought it up earlier. Where'd it go? Oh, so he says too many people in AEW and not enough time. I disagree with the second half. Like, they've got plenty of time. They've got 4 different shows that they put on: Dark, Elevation, Rampage, Dynamite. And then you're going to throw in, 7, technically 8 more shows, because you got Raw, you got SmackDown. Actually, more than that, you've got NXT.
So they said merger. So I don't even know how that works.
Well,
are you going to merge everyone into one company? Use the WWE name now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you?
Well, for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to assume that they're just buying it, and everything roster-wise would stay the same, because that's a whole nother conversation. But you've got the 4 current AEW shows. You've got Raw, SmackDown, NXT. You've got Level Up. You've got Main Event. And then that's not including the house show loop that WWE currently does and that allegedly AEW is going to do. You're telling me that Tony Khan is going to either head all of that up or be willing to delegate? That's been his problem, because he wanted to take over so much of that. That's another reason AEW went downhill, is because allegedly Tony Khan took more of the reins as far as the creative side. You're telling me he's going to take the creative on all of that, or put someone in charge of something else?
Well, the rumor was that they were going to be creating a position for Vince within the merger, which is what's even funnier about this is why I said, not from a standpoint that I want Saudi to buy the WWE. This is why I said I would rather them buy it, though, because I think there's more drama and more crap to hit the fan with AEW being in charge of it than I do Saudi. I think at least with Saudi, you would see, even though there'd be an exodus of people that would leave, you would still see a product for those who stayed that would be consistent, I think.
Yep.
It wouldn't miss a beat. I think AEW would tank it. I mean, just straight up. You're talking about mass exodus with Saudi. How many people are going to leave because they don't want to work for TK? How many people are going to leave because they know they ain't going to get no TV time. They know that they're not going to they're going to end up on Elevation when they were on NXT. They're going to go from being on TV every week to being on YouTube. And I'm not trying to diss it, because everyone has their starting grounds. But does Braun Breaker make it to TV if AEW's, you just got difference of styles, and not to mention WWE's entertainment. We got to address this. WWE's entertainment right now. They're not about the spot monkey flip stuff and all this stuff. They're entertainment. That's what they do. AEW wants to be wrestling. They don't mix. They haven't. That's why you see the shifts in different companies. And so I think you got to talk about that a little bit, because they take over WWE. Half the people that they have who are entertainers, not necessarily wrestlers, are out the door.
Yeah.
They won't fit in the style that they're trying to book. So that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
That's a good take, though. That's
a
good take.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, guys, I want to remind you about a few things. First of all, we are live every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, across Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. If you haven't already, please make sure that you're liked, subscribed, and following all of those platforms. We are on Instagram as well. It was a few months ago, but Cole got our Instagram page back up and running. But our followers are still kind of on the low side. So we are going to try to get some more activity going on our Instagram page as well. So just make sure you follow us there. We'll be traveling to some shows and getting some picks. I know we've got Raw coming up that we're going to be going to in March, so that'll be a good time. The irony is, did you see that Dynamite's going to be in town literally the week after?
The thing that I hate about Dynamite is it's on Wednesday nights. And for those of you that don't know, I'm a youth pastor where my services are on Wednesday night. And then I also hate because they usually tape Rampage
Yeah.
at the Dynamite. So even if they're in, it says they're in town for that week and it was in St. Louis as well, I couldn't go to either of them.
It's just silly to me. It's like, you really think wrestling fans are going to spend more money the week after Raw was in town? Like, who does that?
Let's be real. There's a fan base that's going to choose one or the other.
I guess, but
where's AEW going to be at? What venue?
Chaffetz.
So smaller than Enterprise. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, there's going to be people that go to both, and they're whatever. And if it was plausible and we could just do it so easy, we probably would go just because.
Oh no, I wouldn't go. Like until AEW shows me that they can actually put on an entertaining product on TV, I have zero desire to go to any show. Zero.
That's what I'm saying. Like if it was something that we could easily swing, the problem is neither one of us want to spend the money, so it's not something we can easily swing. It just be one of those things. So, I don't know. I'm not intrigued by it at all.
So yeah, make sure again you're liked, sharing, subscribing, following all across our social media platforms. If you haven't already, we greatly and humbly appreciate it. I told someone in one of our chat threads yesterday that in all sincerity, we're humbled by the amount of support that we get, not just from a viewership, but financially as well, because we know there's so much out there in terms of wrestling content that people could be spending their money elsewhere, but you're choosing to support us with our Patreon page, and I'm actually going to share that link across the bottom of your screen right now, through our our raffles that we do, through our Twitch channel. We just greatly, sincerely appreciate it, and I can't say that enough, guys. So thank you for that. But speaking of our Patreon page, again, you can join for as little as $5 a month. We do give some scoops as it relates to future guests. I know I keep saying this, but I do want to be better about, putting out an article just, for leisure reading, I guess, for lack of a better way to word it. Just to maybe like elaborate more on some thoughts from the show, maybe something that I didn't get to or forgot to say, stuff like that. But yeah, you can join for as little as $5 a month, but there are different perks and benefits to each tier. But again, one of those is we do let people know ahead of time who our guests are going to be. And guys, we have just an insane guest roster, so to speak, over the next few months. You guys know of some. I'll throw these up real quick. Kylie joining us next week. I'm actually going to get rid of this Patreon thing real quick. Hang on. Okay.
I want to drop the tile too.
I'm getting there. I'm trying.
There we go.
All right. There we go. So next week, Kylie's joining us for the 4th time. Super looking forward to it. Again, this is just going to be a off the cuff conversation. I'm not putting together any kind of script questions or anything like that. We're just going to have a conversation and see what happens, see where it goes. But same time next week, Sunday the 22nd, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. We are going to be revealing a new guest during that podcast next week as well. So join us for that. Then 2 weeks after that, on February 12th, this will be at a special time. So February 12th at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, we have B. Brian Blair joining us from the Killer Bees from the WWF. He was in Championship Wrestling from Florida. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation, just being an old school fan. And so I'm going to actually do a guest reveal tonight. And then we'll do another one next week. And then who knows? We might just kind of roll them off week by week. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But guys, we've got guests going into late March, possibly early April at this point. And so one more I'm going to reveal. So 2 weeks after the B. Brian Blair interview, we have none other than Bobby Fish joining us. Sunday, February 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Really looking forward to that interview. I can't put that one over enough. That's going to be a super fun conversation. I'm really looking forward to that one. And we've got more to reveal over the next few weeks, really. Again, we've got guests confirmed as going into late March, potentially early April. I'm still working on another one. But we'll let you guys know. We'll keep you informed. Don't forget our Pro Wrestling Tees store as well, prowrestlingtees.com/GoingBrdwyPodcast. Check that out. I need to get some new shirt SKUs up. It's been a while since we've put up a new one. Kind of teased it on our Patreon, but yeah, if you were a Patreon, you already knew about Bobby Fish. So, and I think, yeah, if you're a Patreon, you know about one that we're going to announce next week too. But there are potentially two more that we're going to reveal to our Patreons within the next week or so. I really would like to get the one I'm working on for April confirmed as well, or at least get a date for that. But I'll keep you guys in the loop. I'll let you know. Andrew, oh my gosh. Okay. We're gonna have to delay that again. I'm sorry, guys. I need to make myself a note. I'm actually gonna do that right now. I totally spaced it again. Didn't have any.
It's actually in our notes to do tonight, but he didn't get the randomizer set up.
Well, and I need to pull. Okay, the note has been made, but
you know what? That's great though, because Kylie's gonna be on the show, and it's another reason. Here's the thing, guys. I haven't been reminding him. I'm sorry, Alex. I've not been a good co-host. So I will remind him this next weekend to make sure that we pull the names and all that stuff and get that. Y'all give us some grace, man. Give us some grace. We'll take care of it. But Alex, real quick, I'm gonna do two more announcements.
Go for it.
Number one, guys, we already did two of our Royal Rumbles for this month. We'd like to get the other two done. And so I think we're 8 or 9 spots away on the men's Rumble, where you get to select your character, not your slot, your character.
You actually select the wrestler.
Yeah. So you're selecting the wrestler that you would like, and then all the spots are random. Those are $10 a slot. And if you didn't know, you will now. On our Discord, I've actually posted about 70 names, both men and women, from New Japan, AEW, Impact, NWA, GCW, Legends, all different kind of extra people that you can choose as well for the Royal Rumble. So if you want to see that roster, make sure that you join our Discord. I believe Alex has actually shared that to our Facebook page here recently. So I
think the link changes though. It just randomly generates a new link.
So you need to message us: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whisper here on Twitch if you're watching on Twitch.
Try the existing link first, and if it doesn't work, I'll get you taken care of.
We'll get you on there, but you're gonna want to look. I'm not gonna answer. We're not going to be answering questions anymore on who we have. We have a majority of the unlockables. I didn't realize you didn't get Eddie without doing the story mode. And when I had him, and when stuff crashed, I didn't realize I didn't earn him back. So I need to earn him back. So I do apologize on that. But majority of the unlockable characters are there. So you just need to do your research on the main roster and the unlockable characters, and then get on our Discord to see all that. Good news is your boy David Tilley was able to find a Kylie Ray, and I haven't downloaded her yet, but he told me how to find her, and I will be
However,
downloading Kylie Ray, but as of right now, she is not available to
well, and
select.
I'll say this: I promised David that if you did get her downloaded, he gets first dibs on her.
He does, because he's the one that found her. So I agree.
But
So I'm gonna try.
But once the announcement is made that you have found her, made her a downloadable character, Mr. Tiller, you have 24 hours to claim her, and if you haven't, free game.
Snap.
Free game.
So with that being said, there's like 8 or 9 slots left on the men's one, so we're almost there full on that.
Yep.
And we're about halfway on the women's. So guys, we're not going to close these. We're not going to refund. We'll just wait it out. So, if you're like, hey, finances are kind of tight right now, whatever, cool, no biggie. We're not in any rush to do them. So just take your time, but as quickly as possible, we'd like to get these filled. And because starting in February, we're going to be doing pay-per-views instead. So just be one thing a month. And I'll give you more details on that as it comes, but it'll basically be one big pay-per-view, and you'll pay for your slots that way. And each winner of each match will get a entry into the drawing. They can't make a character smaller than Mysterious, so no Marco. That's funny.
Well done.
So,
well done.
But each person that wins a match on the pay-per-view will then get a drawing into. It'll be 8 people, I think, or 9, I think is what it breaks down to win the belt. So there is that. So I wanted to make that known to you guys. Those are still available. And yes, if you are a patron member, you get first dibs on these slots. So as we start to do the pay-per-views, you want first dibs on your wrestler and what matches they're in, you're going to want to become a patron. And yes, the $5 tier gets you that access. So I wanted to highlight that, as well as I am working on cutting down our interview with Medusa that we had, or / Alundra Blaze that we had last week. We had such a great time with her. And she's been so supportive. She's shown a lot of love on Twitter as well. And we've had some, I guess, publicity, if you will, from some other sites with our interview. So I'll be cutting her interview up into some segments, and those will be posted on our YouTube channel. So once you see those, you'll see them premiere if you're a subscriber on our YouTube channel. If you could just share those when they get posted and help us get the word out about our podcast. She had a lot of great insight, and also hashtag it with "Buy the book" or "It's in the book." That would help out a ton as well. So just wanted to highlight those two things, as well as that. Sign up for our Royal Rumble raffles. You can do that on our Facebook page, or through the Facebook page is the easiest way to do it. So do that. And as you see the Medusa interview segments pop up, help us get the word out on that interview. It was a great time. And on future interviews, we'll be doing the same thing. So we'll need your help moving forward with all these interviews we have.
Yeah, that was one of the most fun interviews we've done, just because, yes, we had, anytime we have guests on, we kind of have like don't want to say a script, but just kind of an outline, I guess. And the fact that we were able to deviate from that outline, but it still wasn't like, losing control or going off on a just 30-minute tangent or whatever. It just, it was nice. And because, and I'll let you in on this. Before we went live, like as soon as we brought her on the stream or whatever, and just talking with her before we went live, it was like talking with old friends.
Oh, she was you guys thought she was rousing me on the show. She was ribbing me and everything beforehand. I was like, man, what did I do to get all these jokes? But she was talking about the Minnesota Vikings and the Dallas Cowboys, and it was a hoot. So
it's funny because we were talking for like a good 5 or 10 minutes, and then I realized, we haven't even really introduced ourselves yet. So I don't know.
Yeah, she just hopped in and went straight to being friends. So definitely top 3, I think, for me on interviews for sure. So I was never crying. I don't know where anybody got.
I don't know.
She almost made me cry with the sentimental stuff she was saying because it hit home for me. Yeah. But she never hurt my feelings. It was all good fun game. I swear Cole cried there. No, my eyes just water. Okay. I have a cold. There was an onion being cut. There's a lot of things happening all at the same time.
Allergies. I think I'm actually going to save our one must go segment. I think that'd be fun to do with Kylie next week.
Oh, I was just thinking that. Yeah.
And so I'm just going to call it, and we'll save one must go for next week. But guys, thanks so much for joining us. Cole, any final thoughts?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We do sincerely appreciate you guys. Again, don't forget about all the announcements that we have. And if you could, if you would, if you should, go like Instagram, like us on Instagram. It's Going Broadway Podcast. Trying to get more consistent posting on there. Working on a better system on my end to post better on all of our social medias more frequently. So if you get the word out on that, who knows, at some point, we might do a belt giveaway for Instagram followers. And if you like it now, you'll still be a part of that. So might as well get an early jump on the ball. I do know we have plans to give some stuff away to help with that at some point. So you never know. You just never know. So that would be a huge help. That is kind of one of our biggest needs right now, is getting our Instagram kind of back caught up to where all of our other socials are.
Yep.
So that would be a huge help. And then interact on our posts, y'all. Comment, like, share. Help us get the word out about what we're doing. We had a post that went really well when we asked about the Mount Rushmore of Impact. And I was like, man, I wish all of our posts had this kind of community and connection. So if you get a chance, just drop a comment, a like, a share on any of our posts. That helps the algorithm. It helps get the word out to other people. And we would sincerely appreciate that as well. So guys, I love you. Go Dallas Cowboys tomorrow night. My wife is screaming at the TV, so hopefully that's a good thing with the Bengals playing right now. But other than that, guys, enjoy wrestling, enjoy the content. I'm sure. Ooh, we are gonna have to do Royal Rumble predictions with Kylie as well, because that's gonna be the last show before Rumble, right?
It is.
So we'll have to do
We got
some
plenty
Royal
to
Rumble.
talk about.
We'll have to do some Royal Rumble predictions with Kylie. Maybe she's in it. Who knows? So yeah, join us this next week with Kylie. I'm telling you, you need to tell a friend. It is going to be probably one of the most entertaining podcasts that we've ever done, because she's a who, and we're no script this time. Y'all, the gloves are off. It's anything goes. So
it's improv night with Kylie.
Make sure you join us with the Smile Gang reunion. I'm excited for that. But as always, guys, I got to leave you with your favorite thing in the entire world.
Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next week with Kylie Ray.